is the one who is rich in mind, because the mind is a source of life. Because if you're not resilient, Kind.By Maluleke.
And the histoire de I'm not thinking when he's at home, when he's asking for water. Cassandra, my love, go to the water bottle store and get me some beer. A beer. Even when he's asking for water, please go to the kitchen. Get me a glass of water. Water. And that was a surprise for the professor. He's already in tears. There is one person that I'm going to call upon, this gentleman on the stage. And before I do that, let me introduce myself. My name is Brian Gianerico. So those are the names that my parents gave me. But I go by the name of DJ Brian Ricotto. I'm a radio presenter for almost 25 years at SABC. Oh yes, I'm the reigning sport photographer of the year Limpopo. This guy looks like me, I don't know why. I'm very worried. Stand up, sir. I've been looking at him. He looks like my dad. Yes, he does. I'll take your number later so we can talk. Let me call the person who's going to actually give us a word of welcome in this venue. I host a show called Papama, and the person coming on stage is Papama. Please give her a round of applause, and as she comes and welcome her. Hi, Papama.
My hands, DJ Brian. Limacheloni, Aksheni, Sanbonani, Dumelang, Boboazwabuti, Rekoribuwa. Good morning, Limacheloni, Honorable Premier of Limpopo, Dr. Popi Ramatuba, distinguished guests, government delegates, esteemed MECs of Limpopo, revered chiefs and royal leaders, members of the Executive Management Committee of the Tshwane University of Technology, Professor Tinyiko Maluleke, distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, family, friends, and lovers of literature. It is with immense joy and deep pride that I welcome you to this historic and inspiring occasion, the launch of Professor Tinyiko Maluleke's transformative book, Faces and Phases of Resilience, a memoir of a special kind. Today we gather to celebrate not only the unveiling of a profound literary masterpiece, but also the remarkable journey of a scholar, a leader, a visionary whose life and words have inspired countless souls across the globe. Professor Maluleke, a globally acclaimed researcher in religion, politics, and African theologies, and the esteemed Vice Chancellor and Principal of the Tshwane University of Technology, has crafted a memoir that is both intimately personal and universally compelling. Through this evocative storytelling, he invites us to reflect on the triumphs, struggles, and unyielding hope that shapes South Africa's past, present, and future. This morning's gathering promises to be a moment of inspiration, introspection, and a celebration. We'll have the privilege of hearing from Professor Maluleke himself, alongside esteemed speakers who will illuminate the profound impact of his work. Together we'll honor a narrative that masterfully weaves. On behalf of Tshwane University of Technology, our valued sponsors that are here today, the publisher and the event organizers, I extend our heartfelt gratitude for your presence, which elevates this occasion. A special word of appreciation to the Honorable Premier, Dr. Popi Ramatuba, government delegates, MECs, chiefs, and royal leaders for your steadfast commitment to uplifting intellectual and cultural milestones like this one that we are celebrating today. Above all, we express our deepest thanks to Professor Maluleke for his courage, his brilliance, and generosity in sharing this extraordinary story with the world. Let us embark on this literary journey together today, embracing the beauty, challenges, and hope enshrined within these pages. May this occasion inspire us to reflect, to connect, and rededicate ourselves to building a just, resilient, and inclusive society. Once again, welcome, and thank you for being part of this momentous day, momentous occasion as we celebrate a giant. Welcome.
You hear that English? Trapestry. Dr. Seuss said, the more that you read, the more things you will know. And the more you learn, the more places you'll go. And I mean, that's the only time I imitate my diva, that's when I'm in trouble. Some years back, I was hijacked. This is not a joke. I was hijacked in, where was it? In Tembisa, yes. Maguwa, you still remember? I was Tembisa, yes. So this guy's gun pointed at me. I still have that movie in my head. So I opened the door very gently. So you see what I'm doing, Musanden? So it means it was not, I was not pressing anything. It was a gymnasium kind of car. So I opened the door. I said, hello. Never try to rob a black man's car again. They laughed like you are doing. But unfortunately, they continue to take my car. The purpose of this event, ladies and gentlemen, it will be explained very well by Lynette Mahasa. Actually, when I met this other guy driving a car, written M-O-B-O-K-O. Where I come from, we read that as Maboko. So I went to the old man and said, how are you, Mr. Maboko? I said, I'm not Maboko, I am Maboko. So it's possible that I can say Mahasa, I can say Magasa. So I'm just saying, the founder and the CEO of Body Swap Group, ladies and gentlemen, will explain to us better what is the purpose of this event. Muito obrigado. You can sustain that clapping until she.
Thank you very much, Program Director. My name is Lynette Mahasa. I would first like to open by welcoming our distinguished guests and family and friends and fellow Africans. One thing I would like to rest assured to Professor Tinyiko, my friends, and actually I think my lecturers are also here. I'm also one of the old students that happened to study at TUT some years ago. But I can assure you that, when I looked at the program, Papama, I saw there's doctor, there's professor, there are honorables. So the next event, the next book, I can assure you there will be a title before the next. So mine is just a small item that I need to render. I'd like to first just to congratulate you, Professor Tinyiko. I'd like to congratulate you, my friend, from something that started as a dream, as a conversation. I remember sometime this year, normally once in a while, I travel quite a bit, but sometime this year I remember we had a conversation. And I must say that that conversation that started as a dream, it has now, it has now become fruitful. And I'm actually humble that someone of your stature, an academic giant, and a national thought leader took time to listen and reflect and consider advices from someone like me. So today, as we celebrate, we also honor the people that made this possible, which is your late parents. And I feel so proud that this event happened on Mother's Day, because I know your grandmother played the most important role for us to be able to sit here today and celebrate that those lessons that she gave you when she grew up. And I'd like to also say that, Professor, we are not only celebrating you as the people of Limpopo, because we know that you're coming from here, but I'd like you to know that Africa is also celebrating you. And I'm just going to mention that, Professor Maluleke, we thank you. And we thank you for trusting us in your words. We thank you for showing us that dreams can come true. And thank you for your humility, for listening to others, and honoring your roots with inspiring the future. Thank you for running this launch, especially today in Limpopo. So with great pride and joy, we say congratulations, Professor. May faces and faces of resilience continue to inspire. You've inspired an African child. Thank you so much. We're proud of you. Congratulations.
Sometimes I forget, Corey, in the presence of royalty, and sometimes I'm about to ask for the DJ to play the chopper, you know. So I'm like, oh, come on, Brian, you are not in that kind of space. So I just have to, you know, calm myself. So, ladies and gentlemen, Ernest Hemingway says that there is no friend as loyal as a book. Let me tell you a story. About 3 weeks ago, I received my own copy. It's 3 weeks, no, it's less than that. It's signed with a very love letter inside by the Prof himself. So, when I'm about, I look at this book, I'm impressed by the cover and all that. I'm like, Now it means I must read a book. But I can't go and launch a book without reading it. More later on, Prof, especially on chapter 49. Very interesting chapter. And I believe you get asked about that chapter everywhere you go. Without wasting any time, I've got a team to go in. I mustn't say a lot about the next person who's going to come to the podium, ladies and gentlemen. I must just say, ladies and gentlemen, welcome the Premier of Limpopo, Dr. Popi Ramathube. She took me a very nice picture back in the days, in 2017. I still value that picture a lot. It's a picture of me and the Right Reverend Barnabas Lekhanyan. I still have that picture. She's the photographer of the picture. And I've never posted that picture. And I will never post it. I appreciate you, my photographer.
Thank you, Program Director DJ Brad. I think let me start by acknowledging some of you. Maybe when I want to do my PhD, you might refuse and say you didn't acknowledge me on that day, so you are all acknowledged. The students that I've seen who are here in numbers really appreciate that you are here so that you can really learn to be better than us. We learned from those who came before us, and we tried our best, but we believe you can even be much more better than us, because you're fortunate to be living at a time when there are giants amongst yourselves. Provincial government, and of course you, Prof, want to appreciate you on behalf of the Limpopo provincial government for extending your invitation to us so that we can share this moment with you. To all of you, ladies and gentlemen, all of you, our esteemed guests, and of course, most importantly, our distinguished writers and fellow genius in the realm of knowledge and creativity. It is, of course, with a great honor and excitement that I find myself standing before you today to celebrate the launch of an extraordinary memoir, The Faces and Phases of Resilience, a memoir that of a special kind, authored by our very own illustrious Professor Tinyiko Maluleke. This moment is not just about a book launch. For us, it is about a celebration of resilience, a celebration of creativity and the indomitable spirit of our people, rooted deeply in the rich cultural tapestry of our beautiful province, Limpopo. The essence of our cultural heritage. This artist includes, amongst others, the famous Noria Mabas, an internationally renowned crafter and artist, particularly known for her wooden sculptures. If you remember Tatana Jackson Hlungwana, a renowned crafter and artist, particularly known for his wooden sculptures. Not forgetting Bofinias Masubelele, a well-known crafter who crafted a wooden drum that might go down in history books as one of the largest drums to ever be made. The famous Limpopo potter and heroine of the story of Mukondeni pottery. What about Pilato Burara, an artist who creates sculptures, and also like Imakamu, a wood crafter and a traditional healer. Mafemani Thomas Kubayena, a wood carver who founded the Wutsira Art and Craft Center to pass on traditional skills. And of course, Justice Mugwena, whose unique wooden creations are sought after, and the Wutsira Art and Craft Center. So today, you know where Prof. Maluleke comes from, not Soweto, because the talent that he has origin from where he originated from. So today, we are here as the people of the Rubora route to add another luminary to the list, Mongwatati Tinyiko Maluleke. Whose work continue a legacy of artistic expression that shapes our identities and reflects the richness of our experience. Tinyiko means gifts. So Prof knows why I'm saying Tinyiko. Parents, when you give children names, think about it. Those names might live with them. When a child is Tinyiko, means children, you call them Matala. It's a problem for me. When I was an MEC for health, I would go around kissing babies, and when I ask, what is this name of a child? Murae. It's not right. Let's give children the names which will inspire them to be the reflection of the names that they have. So we thank the Malulekes, Bangwanati. They might have gone beyond, but they did well by giving us a name that will reflect him throughout his entire life. So I'm also particularly thrilled, Prof, that this launch take place in Limpopo, where your narrative begins. So this event reaffirms Limpopo's status as a cradle of wisdom and knowledge. His reflections remind us of our shared history and the foundational role of those who came before us. The words, open quote, I was mentored and anointed into the arts of letter writing and letter reading by my illiterate grandmother, echo profoundly with us. This juxtaposition speaks to the duality of our existence, a reminder that even in circumstances of limited formal education, the seeds of aspiration were sown. So all of you who are here, I know you do have a story to tell about a woman. Besides the fact that a woman carried you 9 months, gave birth to you, breastfed you, because your IQ is above average. If it was below, you wouldn't be here. So you owe it to that woman who did a fantastic job. So to Prof, the grandmother went beyond. So it is quite critical that as we start celebrating and commemorating this Women's Month, we launch a book that is dedicated to Batshwara Tipaka Mohale, Rena Bomme. I can tell you. You know, women, don't undermine yourself. The one thing, I will still read the speech, but don't undermine yourself. You see, as women, we were given the role of responsibility and leadership by the Creator himself. He looked at the two genders, Adam and Eve, and saying, if I give Adam the responsibility to be a mother and carry a child for 9 months, I'm telling you, the first 3 weeks, 3 months when you are vomiting, eating soil, all those, every household will have one. Because this gender, I've seen them, even when we were vaccinating. As I tried, yes, with that very small needle, women just come in. And I said, but these women go in, you know the injection we use for Deco, Provera, and Nestrate, thick. But every month, 2 weeks, 2 months, they go and get that injection. This one, I'm just giving them a vaccine. Yeah, it was very difficult. So imagine labor pains. They wouldn't take labor pains. So women, God, when he created the two genders, the tough jobs were given to us. Because God trusted us more than this other gender. When a child is conceived, I'm telling you. So never underestimate yourself. The process of giving, conceiving, and creation of a child, for that gender, it's an excitement process. They are enjoying themselves. That's why they forget that these are their kids. But we were given that responsibility of being mothers. So women, don't be, never ever feel your male counterparts can perform better than you. Because I mean, look at us when we grew up going to school, Prof. I would carry, when I come back from school, I must wash the dishes, I must clean the house, I must do household chores. What does my brother do? Play soccer. What does playing soccer? It's what? It's physical exercise. It's helping him to be, scientists are saying, kids who does physical activities, they become smarter at school. But when you look at the results coming out, the girls are still topping the boys, which tells you, honestly speaking, our IQ as women, God knew it's above. Don't fight with me, man. We need you, we live with you. But that you give a woman, you will see. The only problem with us as women is that we don't know how to work together and support each other. We must change this mentality. You see, men knows very well how to work together and how to support each other. These days, men can even call, I've got a family responsibility as a man. And because they know the premier as a woman, she understands what family responsibility is all about. So women, we don't think for ourselves only, we think for the entire nation. That's why when we cook at home, we don't serve ourselves, we dish out for everybody. Change the room. Because you will see a man comes home at work, he ate chisanyam. So when he comes home, he pretends. The poor woman had to struggle to come up with. So this particular gender has been created for a purpose. And that is why women, we must continue with that responsibility that we have. The other day I was telling the other story that I saw on TikTok. Elderly women, mothers, were sitting at a wedding in Eastern Cape, and they are served, you know Eastern Cape, they love meat. They were serving them all this meat on the table. So these elderly women will take it and put it on the plastic. When you put it on the table, they put it on the plastic. And people were laughing. A young man posted that to say, but honestly, what a disgusting, and that's disgusting. It's meat which an elderly woman, a mother says, we can't sit and enjoy meat at home, at a wedding, when at home our kids have got nothing to eat. We are going to share with them what we have shared. We have tasted meat today. That meat was going to feed a young man. And that's what we really must appreciate, the struggle that women have gone through. So I needed to dedicate this book to his mother and his grandmother, because for him to be the way he is because of those two women. Yes, the father was there, Batira Ajoni, that's why he was lucky to see Soweto. But the people who did the real work was the two women. So as we reflect on this narrative, it becomes clear that the work we are undertaking ourselves as the seventh administration is deeply intertwined with the legacy of our ancestors. So our commitment to early childhood development and educational access reflects the same belief that generations of Limpopians have held, education being a powerful tool for transforming lives, breaking the cycle of poverty and fostering hope. Because it's very true, Prof, I wouldn't have known you if you didn't go to school. Equally, you would not have known me if I didn't go to school. That is a fact. Some are lucky on politics alone, they can make it, but these days you need education out there. So Prof. Maluleke's journey resonates with the threads of rural upbringing and resilience found in the lives of many respected figures. Much like his predecessor, Prof. Eskia Mpatlele, whose own memo, Down 2nd Avenue, chronicles the trials and triumphs from a humble background. Our story connects us to one another and the world. From the banks of the Ritavi and Livubo rivers to the bustling landscape of Gauteng. His memo encapsulates the spirit of mobility, the spirit of growth, and the spirit of cultural exploitation. Today, Prof, as we gather months after the book's initial launch, we once again recognize the profound role of women in shaping our province and our nation. As I've indicated, your grandmother is a matriarch and our collective narrative. She embodies the wisdom and sacrifices of countless women who have nurtured generations. These are our mothers, they are our grandmothers, letting their voices and experiences enrich our journey as a people. Could these have come at a better time than today, when we mark the beginning of Women's Month, where resilience and steadfastness of women is acknowledged? The success of those referenced in his book, such as Professor Chirizi Marwala and Dr. Chiflaro, are testimonies of the foundational legacy created by women who have uplifted, and inspired. So as Professor Maluleke aptly demonstrates, the man of letters concept transcends mere academic accolades. It embodies the essence of our communities, trust and social cohesion. As I review this tapestry of life experiences woven through this memoir, I am reminded that it indeed takes a village to raise a child. But in our case, Prof, it is now taking a child to raise a village. That is why we need that University of Guyana. That is why we need that. I don't think we came here for nothing. You must just know that this village has raised you. Now it is your time to raise our village. And we are saying it's not only the campus in Guyana, but also even the campus here, which they are going to school, the local leadership. I'm now advocating for you. They attend in an old garage there. As Prof, I'm told you have your acting Deputy Vice Chancellor with you. He must remember that the Polokwane campus is currently studying in a garage. And yes, you must remember that. It has already council resolved to hand over to you. When are you starting with the construction of our campus? In that, you will then be raising this province that you owe a lot. And I believe in you, and I trust in you to say, this is your home, and you are going to invest in your home. This echoes the resilience, your experiences, and also your aspiration, and also aspiration of all Limpopians, and serve as an inspiration for generations and generations to come. I want to encourage each of you to follow in his footsteps, to weave your own stories into the fabric of our contributions, whether it's in arts, whether it's in science, whether it's in public service, are valuable in shaping a narrative that will resonate long into the future. Prof, you all know, has recently been appointed by the President as one of those eminent people. I don't know what is the criteria, but he is serving there in that, not only serving, but chairing. And also having been at some stage, I'd like to share this with Prof. Lisiwatipo to say, you know, at least him and I comes from Makwelere. So I always say to him, you know, even in Gauteng, if you look at all those premiers who came, they are all coming from Limpopo. Whether it's Matole Metega, whether it's Mbazi Mashilo, whether it's Bochokyo, we are doing very good as a province to produce this. Even Banyazali Sufi, I guess I'm going to Sufi KZN. University in Ilatenayon. Mara, I know that the Sufis are here and school, and he knows that when I say we must have that bullet train, it's because we are doing it for ourselves, including him, so that every Friday he can come there. Half of his cabinet is coming from Limpopo. So we are very rich. Those who undermine Limpopo, you are undermining my province at your own. Look at vice chancellors, even Cape Town. They have got Professor Mashabel, a son of the soil. You're like, whether you go and look at statistician general, I was telling the teachers of Limpopo, you are the best teachers, especially maths teachers. The statistician general, these numbers, he was first taught by you how to add 1 + 1 was 11, make it 2. He was taught by the teacher there, whether it was arithmetic or whatever. Today he's a station general. You go and look at your our Reserve Bank. I can speak big English there and commerce and whatever. So Limpopo, you can say whatever. It's up in our hands. That's why we attached to say you've decided to say you must also launch the book in your. The only thing that is missing is that we don't use the brains that we have to build our own province. Hence, I'm saying with the 7th administration, all the skills that are out there, one by one, we are grabbing them to say, come back. When we say come and stay here, we're saying give yourself whatever to a weekend. I did it when I was in health. To say to the specialist, give me a weekend instead of going to Cape Town. Come operate, remove this elderly women cataract, fix all these bones. And they did that. So now we are saying it cannot end only with health. We're saying our municipalities, for them to be told every day they can't even prepare annual financial statements. It's being prepared by consulting. And that is a story for another day. Because if I tell you, if you're a consultant and you still give me a disclaimer, I have a problem in being a consultant. So we are saying, how many chartered accountants? Saika told me, when you look at the registered chartered accountant, the largest number comes from this province. So we are saying, come and go. Give back. We are here. We want you to teach that municipality how to prepare an annual financial statement. You've got the skills. You were raised by this province. It's your turn to raise this particular province. So as we delve into the phases and the phases of resilience, let us draw motivation from your words and strive to recultivate the spirit of possibility within ourselves. Remember, as Prof. Maluleke reflected in his memo, as far as my grandmother was concerned, there was nothing I couldn't be and nothing I couldn't do if I tried hard enough. So let the spirit of Prof's grandmother of saying, I couldn't be, there was nothing I couldn't be and nothing I couldn't do if I tried hard enough. We want to motivate and inspire all of us to reach our dreams and uplift one another. The elderly lady has said, may her soul rest in peace. So I'm sure today you are a vice chancellor of one of the biggest universities in the country because your grandmother told you. So I'm sure when you were failing a course at the university, you remember your grandmother and you go and study double. So this is for you students. When it's tough, just remember Prof. Maluleke's grandmother's words, that it's in your hands. There is no one who died of hard work. Don't be fooled. I've never seen a grave of somebody, but this one died because she was a hard worker or he was a hard worker. But I can show you people who died of hunger. Some of them because they couldn't take the opportunities that were there. It is time for us to take these opportunities and build our province. Once more, congratulations. When you don't see me, I'm apologizing in advance, not because I'm going to sit and drink coffee now that it's Friday. I still have to launch a Women's Month. And you know these women will say, she became a premier, a first female premier. Now when we call her in our events, she prioritizes the academics, not us. I always balance. So DJ Brian, I must never hear you again criticizing our blue lights. You see why I deserve blue lights.
Ooh la la. Okay, because he's leaving, we'll want to hand over this. Nikita, it's the time to shine. We need a picture, please. I missed that moment. Yo, I don't know why I did that. I should have just jumped into the picture. You can come back on the stage. We need the backdrop. You can grab, we need the backdrop, yeah. Yes. California, you can't let like we must be. You gotta make sure this one comes out right. Also, I believe you as a look. As a person, I'm a flesh from the beach. I'm a just from a beach. I can put it on the Halam, be able to see. Allah nika premier Patapo Mamba. Yeah, that speech sounded like Prof's book. This book is amazing, guys. Like if you give yourself some time to read this book, Faces and Faces, yeah, of resilience will make you think, laugh, yell, cry at some point. More than just being a personal memoir, it's actually a memoir for the country. When you look and read deep into this book, you'll understand that Prof was trying to send a message. Without wasting any time, ladies and gentlemen, let me call upon the next speaker, another professor. But before I call the professor, Haruki Murakami said, if you only read the books that everyone else is reading, you can only think like everyone else. So if you want to be different, you have to read a different book, which is that book. Ladies and gentlemen, let me call upon the next speaker to give us a word of remarks on this book. Prof. Lesibate for Abel Maboko. I didn't get the memo. I didn't get the memo that night.
Shawanele wotano mo Nangungunyani Ramabulana Kilari Lekekana Tolitedi Kevetanchama Flowo Kilitoro Sabatokwa Yatupe Hogan Mo, the Hogan Chakeva Maluleke. We shall talk about that. May I ask you, young lady, to stand up, please? By the way, I'm a primary school teacher by training. From the onset, let me declare and nail my colors to the mast. There is a possibility that I might point the finger at you just to test if indeed you read one page of the book we are launching today. Okay? So see, I hope they are looking at you and they are looking at your age. I hope and trust you have learned something from here. How do we ensure that our heritage, our culture, orality, and all that we have sucked from our parents' deeds doesn't disappear? Especially that which is not codified, especially that which is not written. How do we make sure that treasure is passed on? The level of whoever is teaching you, has taught you, let him or her continue to do that. But I'm asking you, and encourage your peers, Takata, your age group, to try to emulate and to do what you are doing. Go home knowing that you have a talent, and that talent I could see being appreciated by the tears that were dripping on the face of the Vice Chancellor of the University of Tshwane, called Tinyiko Maluleke. As he was standing here, his tears began to drip. He took a handkerchief. That's what you did, Maria. Thank you and congratulations. Yeah, look, you know, the activist in Ramatuba, Dr. Ramatuba, no complications there. She took half of my speech. And now I'm tempted to say, really, I'm tempted to say that because in the main, I had wanted to talk about Kobani. I really want. My bit is about that. But I would have failed Muruti Maluleke, by the way. Bafunzi. Do you know that it's Muruti Mono? Especially the students, they might know that. Yes. Him and I have come a long way, right? We have been in academia together, and we enjoyed promotions almost at the same time. I think the same year he became an executive dean, I became an executive dean. And almost all the ANC conferences, especially the problematic ones, elective conferences, we attended together. Right? All the shenanigans that went with them, the joys and tears, we were there. Even the turning point when it was raining on that fateful day at Oscar Peter Stadium, where the beginning of the death of the ruling party began. Somewhere it is still lingering now, it is looking for a place to be buried. But it all started in 2007 at the Oscar Peter Stadium at the University of the North. And we were together there. And I'm saying this deliberately and intentionally, because you don't read the small society, even aspirant politicians, even our own politicians, serving politicians, you don't read. And you will never compete in the society that is anchored in scholarship, that is anchored in knowledge. You are not going to win. The society in which you and I live, right? In education lies the future of any nation. And Francis Bacon said, knowledge is power. You can mouth slogans, you can insult me as much as you please, but that will never replace knowledge derived from self-investment. It takes a village, that's my first starting point, to raise a child. It takes a village. In Valdivia, a young man was born. The name Tinyiko, at least, was assigned or baptized with. And he traversed the world, not South Africa, seeking knowledge. And later on, he became the fountain of knowledge. And I heard, because he's a Muruti, and there are many Murutis here, and I can also say, let your light, that the Muruti, continues to shine so much, so that the people of Limpopo and the world can benefit from that light and praise your Father who is in heaven. I'm not a Muruti, but I'm a Catholic. I'm a graduate of the Catholic High School, and also a graduate of the Catholic University of Leuven in Belgium. So, yeah. And my wife tends to say, you ran away from being a priest. That's it. I don't know, but all I know is that I wanted to be Muruti. Now, the village that gave birth to him, right? Those who helped construct this structure called the Tinyiko Maluleke. Take pride in what you have done. For today, you can reap the fruits of your investment. Education is an investment, especially the teachers who are. Make the best you can with the little ones who are in front of you. For tomorrow, you would like to draw good dividends from them. That when you go to the bank, you can be assured of a good service. That when you go to the hospital, you can be assured of quality service because you invested all you could in them. And in your twilight days, when you are walking on your stick, then you can be confidently walking in Citizen Hospital, in any hospital, knowing that those who are there, I did the best I could then when I was charged with the responsibility to do so. It takes a village, and we contribute in various ways. You don't have to have a degree. Kokwana, I call her a barefoot professor, an organic intellectual, who could not neither read nor write, but he said, in here, I can see a potential talent that tomorrow can be the light that can take Valdezia onto the international map. Many of you here, your parents could neither read nor write. And I don't accept those who tell me I could not go to school because my parents didn't have money. Never. They would sell beans, maize, they would sell a goat or a donkey to make sure that you go to school. But when you don't take advantage, you are too quick to blame them. Never. I don't accept it. I don't. We use it as a cop-out and as an excuse. Yes, I told you I'll speak here as a teacher, not as a preacher, because I want, especially the small society, to have something to take on and to say there was a Maluleke, but in him I saw a potential at least to take something and to amplify and to multiply that. I want we to live here with many Malulekes, many Tinyikos when we leave this building today. It is within us, it is possible, it is doable. Right. I don't want to go further. Dr. Ramatula. Remember, in fact, she was not giving a speech here. She was rehearsing her speech. She was just practicing. She's going to Memoire. Now, if you want to listen to it, the big speech is coming in the next hour. That was just a foretaste for us just to have a feel of what is going to happen. Now, there is something that I want to touch on in that Maluleke. I think it's on page 23. It's about how colonialism managed to take advantage of us to a point where it succeeded as very good wanted, to look at the other as otherness other than one with me. We have worked very hard in the past 20 years to try to appreciate that our blackness must not be a source of division. Our color, never mind how dark, how deep the melanin goes, mustn't be sources of division. That language should not be a source of division. You will find that on page 26, where Professor Maluleke is saying, can we transcend those stereotypes that are still prevailing amongst our own? Ironically, even among the blacks, we have a hierarchy of stratification. The songers there, the vendors there, and the vendor somewhere there, Even when we relate to each other, even when we want to assign each other responsibility, even when we want to appoint each other to positions, is he one of us? When we talk about one of us, we are not talking about color, now we talk about tribe and ethnicity. That monster caused a lot of pain, division, and destruction on the African continent. You know the Hutus and the Tutsis? Right? In Rwanda, and in the northern part of the DRC, in Burundi, just because your color or your teeth is more projected than the other. Let's deal with this monster of hierarchies among African groups about native people. I think that's one of the messages that I take from this book. Let's make sure that we don't accentuate the things that divide us, but give prominence to things that can make us cohere as a people. Right. And of course, by the way, to build that, well, too many people were clapping there. In this direction, I'm sure there were students, because your comrade was here on the platform, speaking on your behalf and making a case for you, and a very strong one, by the way. When she was speaking here, I don't think she was speaking as a premier. She was speaking as your comrade. Your comrades, here he is. He must give us at least a campus, and we must get out of the garage. And you cheered. And I even looked back and said, oh, that should be his constituency. Now, I'm saying, yes, that can be done, that is working, and that's going to be done. And then there will always be challenges, members in this way and that way. And if I look back at this side of Metalese, there are also some members that also want a campus, but you can only do so much in that environment, right? You can only do so much, never fool yourself, right? You can only do so much, and others must step in and also try to assist and get us going. Now, but let me, by the way, where are the young ones are there? Professor Maluleke, by the way, is by default that is a professor. Some of you, I must say this, he's a professor by mistake. He wanted to be a soccer player then. Yes. Right? You know, it is there in the book. I'm accidentally here. I wanted to be Asinsolem. In our time, by the way, the big names were Asinsolem, Jomo Sono, John Special Makuo, and you name them. And then I think it was Thomas Kawakangwan, the man of Itafamba Moe in Katiano. Is that the name? Is it Lo? He must probably have inspired him because he wanted to play guitar. Go and look at them, right? And I think Governor must have just said, no, forget about that. That would be entertainment, but substantively, I want you to go this route. And that's how it happened. But again, let's go back to Bob Marley because he likes that. I'm saying this because if you read the book, there's too much of music. The guitar man in him, he can't run away. There is my Geva, escape us, him, right? But he keeps going back to Bob Marley. And that's where him and I find each other. When Bob Marley says, emancipate yourself from mental slavery, none but ourselves. And then you have Ngudwa Chiongo saying, what is that book? Decolonizing the mind. Where is the English master? Oh, Mr. Ramakwela is gone, yes. He would even add more to my thoughts, right? Mental slavery. Right? One of the reasons why we keep looking at each other differently and relating each with other differently is precisely because we are still caught up in what apartheid tried to do to us, to accentuate the differences amongst ourselves. And I think Professor Maluleke is saying, there is no one who's going to come from us to liberate humanity. You have to do it yourself. And part of doing that is to invest yourself in books. In education lies the future of any country. Now, yeah, you know this Professor Maluleke, I think on page 39, is saying the greatest black critics, the people who criticize you, are the ones that you must embrace. And it's a pity now that Dr. Ramatuba is gone. This is what we are talking about when we were taking breakfast this morning. A few weeks ago, Dr. Ramatuba, some of you may remember, said, stop praising me. I've got a lot of people who can praise me when I'm in my village and work. But when we are here, we must work. People don't work, they think they will praise me, and then they say things are going well. Prof. Maluleke is saying, the people you must respect most are the people who critique or criticize you. Critique, that's scholarship, what you are writing. Criticize are those who are saying, how will you read on? Don't take it in the negative sense. Look back and say, maybe there's something they are saying. Maybe I might make a detour and make a little introspection into myself. Never ever just take it as a given. She's too negative, her anti. He doesn't like me. No. Why doesn't he? To try to find out. Maybe there is a reason, and you are the reason you are not liked or likable. Right? Right, no, that's fine. I'm not going to go into this one. I wanted to spend time on page 242 on Memoire, but I would risk repeating a lot of things that were said by Dr. Ramatu. But be assured, she gave a good one. The role women played in nurturing this structure in front of us that we're celebrating. He says it's a, what do you call this? You say a memo of a special kind. Maybe you're right. But for me, it is not a memo of a special kind. It is a homecoming of a special kind. We are here today. For me, it is a homecoming of Tinyiko Maluleke, the professor and vice chancellor. A homecoming of a special kind. You and I are knowledge workers. You and I are migrant laborers. We left our ancestral province, right, to the dark province called Gauteng, to bring light, right, where there was darkness. But that's fine. Pope Ramatu spoke about around it. The number of people who left this province and who have made an impact and a damage in helping shape the suffering that we have. We have faltered here and there in the past 35 years. But the mere fact that today we are talking so much about our failures, that gives me hope. It's when we begin to make self-introspection and we are critical and reflective of ourselves, that there lies the possibility condition of transcending the rot in which we find ourselves now. I hear more people talk to me than me talking to me, to them, about how bad things are today. Yesterday, oh, you are negative. Oh, you are very critical. Oh, you don't like us. Today, they are the ones who say, perhaps you were ahead of your time. And I sit back and listen. And when they say that, I say, buy another beer. It's payback time. Right? Remember that the professor? The premier says it's payback time. The community invested in. When it is over the weekend, and people talk the language they do, I say, now you buy me beer because I spend a lot of time and I bore a lot of criticism. But now that you have been to Damascus and on the way you saw the light, I can tell you we shall turn a corner, and we are going to turn a corner, but not without pain, without sacrifices. The mere fact that we are talking, that gives me a lot of hope that we shall overcome, and we overcome we shall. Now, as I take what was a close, I don't want to talk. I wanted really to talk about Kokwani, but I think it's enough, right? And maybe I should also allude to culture. You know, culture. Let's not misuse and abuse culture in order to advance personal and agendas that are inimical, so social cohesion, nation building, and reconciliation. And also cultural practices that continue to perpetuate the stereotypes that our forebears had, that a woman can only be and nothing else. I'm saying this because I realize that as I'm looking at this, then I say to myself, yeah, the certain cultural practices that Maluleke is trying to talk about are very poignant. He says, that rickety body, emaciated body of my mother, accompanied my father to the bus station. And my father said to him, Mama, you are not well. I'll go to the bus alone. board the bus and go to, if I'm here with a journey, stay put, you are not well. And Mama said, no, nothing doing. I'm accompanying you to go and take that bus, and I'll come back. And then as tradition had it, the man doesn't carry anything. Right? The woman carries the bag and all that things, and the man puts on the dops, and then the stick. And then Papa looked at Mama and said, "But no." And then he wanted to say, "Let me carry the bag. You are not really well. I can take the bag." But at the same time, culture said to Mama, "Louis, I carry the bag," and he was walking back. Remember, this is the journey, the last journey of Mama. Accompanied him to the bus station, about boarded the train, and Mama now started the journey back home to Algiers. Along the road, she collapsed, and that was the end of the road. Go and read that and tell me what you take out of it. The love one had for his home. But at the same time, if you are like me, you might say, even the ancestors were talking to Mama. Bid him farewell because you may not see him again. And indeed, that was the end. 2 days, as soon as he arrived in outing, the word came, "Come back and help inter the bones of your dear one." Now, I conclude in the same space, celebrating the woman. When everybody else was busy with the burial of Mondian Changarai, the leader of the MDC in Zimbabwe, his wife was reduced to nothingness, and number amongst numbers. Hardly a single person mentioned her name during the funeral proceedings. But one man called Oliver Mtukudzi said, "There is a soul here that is invisible to you all, but to me it is visible. This woman, the wife of Changarai, nobody is acknowledging or celebrating. Culture, tradition, politics, and agendas can reduce you to nothingness." That said, but there will always be others who see themselves through you, and through you they also see themselves. We are. I am because you are because I am. This is the source. Now, the things I've said are not formal. I think they're mainly meant for the small society and all those who are here. Take whatever you like out of this book, but there is a lot that if you read it, it can make you a better person. For the elders, the message you can take is that if Ogu could make it to this point, as a one, I can do it. And when I say I can do it, I don't mean for my family or for my children. It takes a village. Whatever you see in your space, any contribution you can make, please do it. Because tomorrow, it might be the dividends you draw in one way or another. Like Americans, you know what they did? In the heydays of their struggle, Black Americans, when they identified talent in a village, they were running, they will raise money. And that's where our child regards. Go and read about Martin Luther King, but that is fine. You take what you will, and there is Dateruel Koza, with whom I want to conclude here. And this is for you. This is for you, but also for you who are here. You can take a page from his book. That is one of our elders in academia, in scholarship, in leadership, and others. That is Rural Koza. you know this meaning. Your very life epitomizes that dogged determination, defiance of the seemingly insurmountable, and submitting to the world stage in partnership. Scholastic achievement, transformational and transformative leadership, faces and faces of resilience and memoir of a special kind. There shall come a time, as it will to all of us, when you will leave the stage. I would hope by that time, as you have already started, you are not going to leave a vacancy, Professor Maluleke. You are going to leave a legacy.
I love chapter 4 as well, where the professor teaches us how to sing Tinsimu Telangomeni. And if I used to sing that chapter 4, why bow go, I suka go. And he teaches us how we move from being called with our Western names to be called with our African names, so to speak. Samuel Henryani, Ubakazamola, Evi Jonas Abambazima, Peter Abarsimati, James Abarsena, Daniel Abamkajani, even Sabasona Isuka Vutiangoma, whatever Isuka Hogo. Go and read it yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, for the moment we've all been waiting for. I nearly said life, not a draw. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to call upon the men of the moment. I thought for some reason we'll find a guitar here on stage. He's a very good guitar player. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Tinyiko Maluleke.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. With friends like DJ Brian, who needs enemies? Let me start by appreciating the presence of our premier who has had to leave because of other duties, Dr. Popi Ramathuba. Popi wachavumbya wamburaheni wamurunde mwira muchira wambudzi ngeno mutumbu achila kadzi yavari wahanya nkwa bulungu butete bulunjedzwa nga ari na njere asina njere afaradza ikense swinene loko premier vatile haleni. I also want to acknowledge the presence of our royalty in the presence here. Sorry. I know that Hosi Minga has had to pull out because of a funeral, and Hosi Njaka called to say he also can't make it. But Hoshima Fefe is here with us from Kaskukuni. What an honor. You have crowned our event with glory by your mere presence here. Thank you very much. In Kenya, they call it harambe, to pull together. In Tanzania, they call it ujamaa, local cooperation. Here at home, we call it litsima, or tsima, or ilima, ngesiZulu. That is when neighbors join hands to plow one another's fields, one field at a time. This book launch was brought about by a Harambe effort. It is the victorious culmination of a beautiful relay race that was launched by the visionary leadership of Miss Lynette Magasa of Boniswa Group. She who suggested to me that this book must be launched in Limpopo. This launch has been backed up by the generosity of Dr. Mike Nkuna of the Masingita Group. He's here in our midst. It is also thanks to the hospitality of Bo Inos Rabura of Limpopo Guest Manor, the magnanimity of Mr. Alex Mabunda of Ntiso Consulting Group, as well as the diligent staff members of TUT who helped bring it all together under the leadership of the inimitable Miss Papama Chisikawe, our university spokesperson. I also wish to thank Dr. Walter Chamano, who is the rector of our local campus. He is sitting there. If he can raise his hand. Mr. Jonas Mabrukhani Makhedi, who is advisor to the Vice Chancellor. Mabrukhani in Tsonga is Mabrukwan. Dr. Ntangeni, the acting DVC operations, and a battalion of other TUT staff members. I will not mention them one by one. It warms my heart to see them all here. It warms my heart to see a strong presence of the many members of my family in attendance today. Once again, I will not mention them one by one, but maybe if we were to go according to height, I will mention Walter Maluleke, my brother. Where is he? He is the tallest. Where is he? Thank you. We have a problem at home. His head touches the ceiling sometimes. Above all, I would like to appreciate each and everyone who has come here today, friends, students, colleagues, royalty. Thank you. Thank you all for this lovely harambe. Irikudia ikengeta likamuso. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been summoned here by a story or a set of stories. We have been convened by a book. A book, whether audio, electronic, or good old paper, reconnects and rewires us to the deepest roots of what it means to be human, namely story. Tate Professor Tefu. I am probably better described as a theologian than a Muruti, because I have been so problematic that 30 years ago the church kicked me out.
You're back now.
And so let us begin at the beginning with the first sentence of our childhood. Irile ili nonwane keleketa. Irile ili nonwane
Keleketa.
Garingani wa garingani kwa suga sugela anazi. Once upon a time, and I quote from the beginning of the book, once upon a time, the sun was beating down upon the crowd which sat in almost perfect silence. Women in shawls and colorful head wraps sat on the cow dung floor of the courtyard, while men, some with their bald heads glistening in the sun, squatted on boulders and tree stumps which were scattered around the 3 thatch huts of our homestead. Cattle were grazing. Goats wrapped their long tongues around thorny shrubs. Hens cackled, and emaciated mongrel dogs lingered languidly around the open-air kitchen. In the midst of the crowd, there was a carefree toddler who was bouncing from one loving knee to the next, jumping from one lap to another, and shuffling from one tight hug to the next as his audience took turns to embrace and to tickle him. That carefree toddler was none other than me, myself, and I. As it eventually turned out, the gathering was not so joyous an occasion. In fact, it was a funeral. This was no ordinary funeral. It was my mother's funeral. End of quote. And so begins my book. It kicks off with the invocation of the day my mother was laid to rest. Amazingly, it is a memory that remains as clear as daybreak till today. Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel, who witnessed the death of his own father at Buchenwald concentration camp on the 28th of January 1945, described his experience in the following manner, and I quote, "My father called my name, and I was too afraid to move. All of us were. And then he died. I was there, but I was not there." End of quote. Similarly, on occasion of my mother's funeral, I was there, but I was not there. Physically, I was there, but consciously and cognitively, I was not there. My recollection of my mother's funeral is part memory, part research, part imagination, part intuition, and part raw trauma. I am unable to explain how I remember such a brutal moment of dismemberment, vulnerability, and a loss of childish innocence. As I note in the book, when it came to ways of dying, the black women of my mother's time were spoiled for choice. They, and I quote once again, died waiting for the rain, waiting for the water to fill up at the fountain, waiting for a letter from a loved one in Johannesburg, waiting for sons and daughters to grow up and get married, waiting for old age, waiting for life, for the life for which they went into matrimony, waiting for respite, waiting for happiness. End of quote. I was there, but I was not there. When my mother and my father left home before dawn to make their way to a bus stop where my father would catch a bus to Johannesburg. When the couple quarreled about my mother's fitness to walk to the bus stop on that day, I was there, but I was not there. As the couple gingerly crossed the Mambedi River hand in hand, I was there, but I was not there. On the return trip, when my mother's legs wobbled as she stumbled and fell beneath the Malumbe fig tree, I was there, but I was not there. And yet, in this book, I write about all of the above as if I was there, but I was not there. This is a book of gratitude. Whatever else it is also a book of thanks. Gratitude for the memories of my mother which keep me alive and awake to this day. Gratitude to Kokwani who walked me to school on my first day, an occasion I recall in the book in the following manner, and I quote, "Early one January morning in Limpopo, I was dreaming of smiling goats and singing cows, one of those irrational but charming early morning reveries when my maternal grandmother stormed into the rondavel. She yanked away the blanket under which I lay sleeping in the fetal position." Talk about a rude awakening. By the time I was fully awake, Grandma and I were standing in the registration queue at the local primary school, but not before I had emptied my bladder into my brand new gray shorts. End of quote. In this book, I give thanks to Mani Sophie Mwabene. In English, she's called my aunt. She who brought me up as if I was a child of her own womb. I give gratitude to my mother's younger sister, Maninda Heni, Mzioni Ndwena. She who introduced me to the church of Zionist prophet named Nkanyane. When one day I bent the entire winter's harvest of Rondavel roof thatch that my grandmother had harvested and collected by hand over many months, and I remember that occasion in the following words in the book. Prophet Nkanyane came hurrying towards my grandmother and me, his protruding pot belly leading the way, spouting Bible verses and calling out the names of Isaiah, Nehemiah, Zechariah, Maria, Hosea, and Jeremiah, as if these were abracadabras that would put out the fire and restore Kokwani's statue. But once Grandma had, amid sobs and snuffles, explained the situation and its perpetrator to Nkanyane, Nkanyane wrestled me out of Grandma's loving embrace, and he proceeded to give me a severe hiding. Nsele wakwe. I bless my father and his friends at Middleland Zone 8. Bless them for the animated arguments they had and the lively stories they told. Bless them for the lamentations they lamented and for the drunken melodies they sang in my bedroom, which was also the kitchen. They turned my kitchen bedroom into a theater stage on which they performed joy, lament, sorrow, and resilience in song and in dance. Bless these men, for in their own imperfect and untidy way, they formed a safety net of a community of resilience for themselves and their children. I bless a man called Shilala, the flamboyant village guitar man of Valdezia, at whose feet I would fall asleep while listening to him sing. Bless DZJ Mtebule, my high school principal, who taught me to speak with care and to speak with clear diction. Bless the 5 Swiss scholars who, by over-protesting the first scholarly article I ever wrote, inadvertently launched me into a lifetime of scholarship. I bless the colorful ghosts of Valdezia, including the ghost of Lilima Kanti, for frightening me enough as a youngster so that I was kept out of mischief and trouble. This is a book born of lament and mourning. It is much more than just a book about me. It is also a book about the country we are losing, which provides a map of our bloody country. Country we are losing is a chapter title in the book, and a map of our bloody country is also a chapter title. So that at 5 a.m. on Friday, 8 January 2035, I invite you to come with me when I eulogize a famous liberation movement at its funeral, which will take place at an upmarket cemetery in Johannesburg. And this is how I recall that occasion. I recall an occasion in the future, by the way. Miniature flags and ribbons of green and gold will be blowing in the wind. The crowd will be drenched in tears. Feet will be stomping the ground in reluctant rhythm. Bulging stomachs will be swinging this way and that way. Chests will heave up and down. Double chins and layered necks will quiver. Mourners will take turns to issue various cries of agony. From the back of the marquee, someone will shout, "Long live the dead movement!" The response of the crowd will be delayed and tentative. Long live. At that moment, I will rise from the back and make my way quickly to the front, where I will offer my humble commiserations. Amandla, I will shout. Backslidden comrades, beneficiaries, perpetrators, and other traitors, we gather here to mourn the erstwhile glorious movement. That's how my eulogy will begin in 2035. I hope not to have to make that speech. In this book, I mourn the never-ending list of Hector Petersons, Andries Tatanis, Anin Boysens, and Togozo Klabas, each of which are titles in the book, as well as the martyrs of Marikana, a place which I visited shortly after the massacre. And this is how I recall and narrate my observations when I was at Marikana. And I quote, "To me, the Lon Min mine facility looked like an ugly pimple on the face of the land of Bapobamuhad. Its thin and long chimneys poked the exquisite skies like the long-nailed fingers of Satan. Beyond the perimeter fence of the mine precinct stood the Nkaneng informal settlement. The crooked streets of Nkaneng were riddled and punctuated by small, medium, and large garbage dumps soaking in slow-flowing sewage. I saw kids, dogs, goats, donkeys, and pigs rummaging together in the dumps. As I approached Vonderkop, the site of the killings, I bowed my head and silently read out the names of the Marikana martyrs, all 44 of them." End of quote. The book is also a lament for the heartless. The heartless who during COVID-19 pandemic, when our country was walking in the valley of the shadow of death, and while the rest of us were postponing our sorrow till tomorrow, the corrupt were not restraining themselves. They were stealing from the sick and the dying. This is a book about the multifaceted types of resilience. Resilience is not a special character trait reserved for flawless superheroes and heroines, the so-called self-made men and women. At its core and at its source, resilience is communal. Nor should resilience be mistaken for bravado or the so-called survival instinct. There is resilience before, during, and after adversity. Resilience does not always show up like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It does not always show up like James Bond or Floyd Money Mayweather. Resilience is at play when a community which is cohesively flooded with Bibles chooses to also use the soft pages of the same Bible as pit latrine toilet paper. Because being poor, what else could they use it for in the toilet? Nor is resilience exclusively anthropomorphic. This is a book about resilient forests, trees, and mountains. Indomitable mountains, perennial fountains, unstoppable rivers, insatiable lakes, lush wetlands, and the two oceans that envelop our country. The Tsikabutomi forest and the Malumbe fig tree of my childhood in Valdezia are not intended merely as context for my story. They are active agents and characters in my story. As I recall the circumcision incident that Brian was referring to, and I quote, "On the side of the hill that separated the hidden kraals from the mission stations, the boys would sing and march to a soothing church hymn about the triumphal return of Jesus as they made their way past the mission station down to the Livubu River towards the beckoning wilderness where a circumcision school awaited them." What a beautiful disguise. 2 weeks later, a few days before the missionary school reopened, while the missionaries were fast asleep, the boys would return in the small hours of the morning. They came back triumphant and circumcised, equipped with new bodies covered in shining red clay, having surrendered their foreskins and Christian names at the circumcision bonfire. And jubilant villagers would gather under the Malumbe to welcome them home. End of quote. Now, there is no secret about Valdezia and its surrounding villages which the Malumbe fig tree does not know or did not know. Unfortunately, when the Malumbe was chopped down by enthusiastic ESCOM workers in their rural electrification drive, the Malumbe took its secrets to the grave with it. I think we must send a delegation to the spot where Malumbe used to stand astride and tall, to pour libation, to plead and to beg the tree to take us into its bosom and to take us into its confidence. Similarly, the Yellow Mountain that overlooked Middleland Zone 8 may have a few stories to tell. And I quote when I remember that mountain in the book, I say, "The Middleland Zone 8 of my childhood cowered under an artificial hill on its northern side, a hill made of heaps of mine dumps. As children, we used to roll and tumble down those mushy mountains of yellow soil, sniffling and snorting. During July and August every year, the wind blew the yellow dust over the township, and ominously a blanket of the hazardous dust would cover large areas of Midlands Township, creating a form of mist that was as artificial as it was hazardous. We coughed through it all and continued to run up and glide down the yellow hill." End of quote. My numerous references to Soutpansberg Mountains, the Pisanskop Mountain, the Maroboni Mountain near Bordeaux, where Tito Mboweni was born, my artificial yellow mountain to which I've just referred, the Jura of Switzerland, the Machalis in Northwest. These are not mere metaphors, but these mountains were actual participants, shaping and staging and instilling resilience on place and people. This is a book about rivers, rivers of resilience. The Livubu River served as the northern border gate between Holy Valdezia and the hidden dome that stretched all the way to the foot of the Soutpansberg. The river Gaga of Tentani near Butterworth was the scene where young Nongause and her sister Nombada were lured into cattle-killing saga, Isihelegu Sika Nongause. The brutal Lishwana River of Maupaneng, not very far from here, a river with an angry face, a river that was often carrying on its broad back, and I'm quoting Patlele, trees, cattle, and boulders, was the river at whose banks one of the greatest writers in South Africa, S.K.M. Patlele, spent 5 of his first 13 years on earth. The Nkumpi River in Mapachakeng, a tributary of Lipelle, across which 12-year-old Musa Mushabela had to run. And I tell the story in this manner in the book, as if propelled by a powerful hurricane. 12-year-old Matahulu Musa Muloto Mushabela darts out of the heart of his maternal grandmother, Elizabeth Ramadimecha Madisha, named Patlele. He plunges headlong into the thick blanket of darkness that characterized the electricity-lit nights of Mapachakeng in those days. He literally hits the ground running. Wait for me, Grandma, everything's gonna be all right. Wait for me, Grandma, as he is running. He chants to the rhythm of the footfalls of his own feet as he excellently executes the 20-minute sprint along the winding footpath that slices through Mapachakeng towards the home of his uncle in the neighboring village of Mahate on the other side of the Nkumpi River. This was an emergency marathon. Arriving at his uncle's home, he banged the door shouting at the top of his voice, Malume John, Kukumma is very ill. Please come, let us take her to the hospital now. Young Musa Mushabela was brought up by that grandmother. And today he is the Vice Chancellor and Principal of UCT. For 8 years, he saw his grandmother, who was a quadriplegic, take charge of business from that vantage point of lying flat on the floor. She would even instruct him to bring the cattle, to walk them in front of the hut so she could count if they were all back. And back to the rivers. Consider the Lutaba River in Dutuni in Venderland, where young Chilidzima Rwala often accompanied his grandmother to go searching for clay that was suitable for making the strongest pots, which is how Marwala became or was inspired to become a mechanical engineer. The Mambedi River, of which I have already spoken, the last river to be crossed by my mother and father. The Amazimtoti River, along whose banks Pamela Dube, the current Vice Chancellor of Central University of Technology, grew up, and how it inspired her. I tell her story in this manner in the book. There is a yellow brick road that snakes and slithers across the length and breadth of the Kwamakuta township, south of the port city of Durban. From east to west, the yellow brick road zigs and zags between vales and hills, slicing through the hamlet of Isipingo all the way to the stunning seaside town of Amazimtoti, where swathes of turquoise water rise into the sky and spiral into curling waves. And consider the White River in Mbombela, now also the name of a town. A river that is not very far from where Togomayigiso turned a derelict golf course into a university, the University of Mpumalanga. Let's proceed to the rivers of Umlazi, Ezimbogotweni, and Isipingo, rivers which embrace and crisscross the Umlazi township, where Nogutula Sibiya, a renowned academic and university leader, was born, bred, and buttered, to use her own expression. And we may also want to visit the Ngwaveti River, across which Tito Mboweni had to swim in order to go to school, in that way learning not to allow any hurdle or obstacle to prevent him from pursuing the public good. Let's go to the Rovuma and Maputo rivers, which nourished Samora Machel and his Frelimo soldiers to victory. There is also a small river, a rivulet called Tula Unziteka, a tributary of the Sabi River, which traverses the village of Athasit Mnombeleni, where Ruel Khoza was born and bred. That river is part of his inspiration and sustenance. In more ways than one, the rivers I refer to in my book are rivers of resilience. Of course, this is on the main a book about faces of resilience. And so you will meet in this book Mukweng, our former Chief Justice, who was not shy about his religion. We celebrate his resilience, albeit satirically, in the book. I've referred to Pamela Dube, who emerges from Kwamakuta, a very violent place at the time of her youth. Togo Mayekiso, the founder of Mpumalanga University, leading ethicist Puleng Linkabula, the only woman, black or white, to lead UNISA. I write about her. Tsakani Maluleke, the extraordinary number cruncher, the only woman, black, white, or brown, ever to become the Auditor General of South Africa. I write about Michelle Obama. And what can you say about Michelle Obama? Michelle is Michelle. I write about Antoinette Ntuli, she who was born at the right time. I write about Chilizi Marwala. I write about Litlokwa Mpedi, the legal eagle and former karate kid from Safer Scale in Hammanskraal, who now is the Vice Chancellor of UJ. I write about Siyamthanda Kolisi, the South African rugby captain who led the country to back-to-back World Cup wins. I write about Imitiaz Suleiman, the national gift of a giver, Thabo Mbeki, Buchiro Nechutuni Lof, the Limpopo-based world-class pediatric oncologist, Ruel Khoza, Bernard Ntambeleni, the Vice Chancellor of Venda, Thomas Chauke, the musician, and Vusima Hlasela. I also write a number of people who have passed on. Dudu Mukua, our former secretary, not just about professors. Ndawozo Taba, our student who was tragically killed. Tito Mboweni, Desmond Tutu, Steve Biko, Andres Tatane, Sam Zima, Samora Machel, my grandmother, and of course, my dog Bruno. That dog which will be dancing with Jesus when Jesus returns, if Jesus returns as Jacob Zuma promised us. So why should I not write about all these people when they inspire me so much? I know that some critics have said, don't write about these people because they may disappoint you. I'll not wait to write about them just in case they disappoint me. Resilience is not about being perfect. Resilience is resilience. And when you see it, you know, and you recognize it. This is a book about the melody of resilience. Prof. Tefo has already referred to it. It is a book sprinkled and peppered with music. And music is a great source of resilience. At least 4 musicians are profiled in the book, and more than a dozen are referenced in the book. Several music genres are also invoked. Without music, there would be not much resilience to write about. So in my dedication page of the book, I invoke the words of Canadian poet-musician Leonard Cohen in his song, which he wrote 3 weeks before he died, titled, "If I Didn't Have Your Love." And I dedicate those words to my family. To explain the troubled history of the township of my birth, Meadowlands, I rely on Strike Vilakazi's song, "Meadowlands, Meadowlands, Arienko Meadowlands." Similarly, the resilience of the Maraba stud of STM Patlele and Kentemba cannot be understood outside the influence of Marabi music. Think about it, Maraba stud is the only township to produce its own brand of music, Marabi. To describe the beauty of Antoinette Ntuli on occasion of her birthday, I refer to Yuma Sikela's marketplace. I see her walking lazily in the marketplace like a butterfly with cornrow hair in a million braids, because she was wearing braids on that day. To describe the defiant joy of Desmond Tutu, I invoke Pharrell Williams' song, "Happy," where he suggests that happiness might resemble a room without a roof. To remember the tragic death of Collins Chaban, I invoke Yuma Sikela's Stimela, and this is how I describe it. Yuma Sikela sings and raps about a train that crisscrosses southern and central Africa, picking up young men to work in the mines of Johannesburg. Masikela goes on to chronicle the trials and tribulations of the miners. He might as well have sung about a road that snakes, ascends and descends, zigs and zags from Joburg to Musina and back, occasionally spewing human limbs and corpses. I'm talking about the N1. To recall the burial of Zimbabwean politician Morgan Tsvangirai and the fate of his widow Elizabeth, I lean on Oliver Mtupuzi's Neria, as Prof. Tefo has already referred. The book is full of many other references to songs and other musicians. You know why? Because music is a source of resilience. This is a book about the comedy of resilience. Picture me as a youngster attending the Zionist church with my aunt, Manda Heni, and I describe it in this way. Holding on to Maninda Heni's Shibelani or Shitlekutani for dear life as she participated in the vigorous Zionist secular dance. Nkanyani's deep baritone voice would rise above all voices in song and in prayer. Amidst the cacophony of pounding drums and spirited singing, the secular dance went faster and faster until I was so dizzy I would end up lying flat at the center of the dancing circle, prayers raining down on me until I fell asleep to the receding sound of singing voices. Then I would slip into the most beautiful dreams. End of quote. Part of my school holiday job was to interpret African illnesses to white doctors at number 216 Bree Street. Sometimes, and I'm quoting here, sometimes I would be confronted with an old man or woman complaining of being stabbed by blood or being tormented by the restlessness of the snake in their stomach, or being troubled by the worm in their brain, or a misbehaving gallbladder. How on earth was I expected to explain these things intelligibly to Dr. Hayward? I hardly understood most of it myself. My other job was to hold the patients down while the doctor worked on them. It felt as if I was holding down black people so that white people could inflict pain on them. I knew the feeling was irrational, but the dreadful thought stalked and tormented me every time I held down a squirming patient. Sometimes in the throes of pain, while the doctor performed the surgery, often with little to no anesthetic, the patient would call out my name, but I was powerless to help them. This made me feel as if I was the mythical farm Induna, or four men from the old Transvaal who, according to legend, apparently used to say to his subordinates in Isindebele, Professor Tefu, Jamakaguhle ikualukurite. I felt that I was performing that function. Consider the mythical story of the forbidden love between white missionary Lilima Kanti and a black lover, so that she ended up drinking such local concoctions as Shibambani Mazingi, Tototo, and Tagunyisa. And then there's Desmond Tutu and his Van der Merwe jokes. And I tell one of them, quoting him, he said, "At home, they tell stories which feature a character called Van der Merwe, a guy who is not over-endowed with intelligence. He was browned off, so they say, because the Americans and the Russians were getting all the kudos for their space programs. So Van der Merwe announced that South Africa was to launch a spacecraft to the sun, no less. Knowledgeable people told him, Van der Merwe, your spacecraft will be banned to scientists long before it gets anywhere near the sun. Nothing daunted, Van der Merwe retorted, you don't think we South Africans are stupid? We will launch it at night. Now, how resilient was Van der Merwe? In the chapter on combating the pandemic of GBV, I tell a story of something that happened to me when I was a professor at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. I went to the cinema one day. It was dark when the film ended, and I'm quoting. I noticed a woman in front of me as I walked through the corridors towards the parking lot. She looked nervously at me over her shoulder. I walked faster towards her, hoping to reassure her that I meant no harm. The faster I walked, the faster she walked away from me. Eventually, she broke into a sprint, and while half walking, half running, I shouted, "Please don't run away, I'm a professor, I mean no harm." But the more I shouted, the faster she ran away from me. What a resilient woman. And she was right, because those who rape and harm do not have tags written on their foreheads. To end, let me return to the day I die. Those who have read the book will know that the book ends with the chapter titled, The Day I Die. As I walk down to the God-forsaken squatter camp where I will die the death of a victim of violent mob justice, Zimnawane's Mayenzeke song will be the soundtrack. And then we will rev it up to Brenda Fassie's and Chico Twala's Memeza. I will not sneeze when petrol is poured over me. Instead, I will snap out of consciousness and slide into the transcended state of the unbearable lightness of being. A phrase I'm borrowing from Milan Kundera. Until in that state of unconsciousness, I become a toddler again. One moment running happily up and down the Yellow Mountain overlooking Meadowlands, and the next moment running down into the Livubu River, there to live with resilience happily ever after. I thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
When I grow up, I want to be like Prof. So, Prof, I'm told this is your prestigious chair, or how you can call it. Can you please join me? Yo, I can listen to you the whole day. I just don't know how much it will cost me to invite.
Will this work? I don't know. Is it on?
Yeah. How much it will cost me to invite you to come and have a cup of coffee with me, or you sit there with your guitar. Do they know that you play? Who taught you to play guitar, by the way? Let's start there. You play very well, better than me.
Well, there was this man in Valdezia at our village, Shilala, who used to play guitar every time he came home. He was a Gaisa, you know, when he came home for Christmas. And I would go and listen to him. And of course, a group of us would go and listen to him until we fell asleep at his feet. And so I thought, when I grow up, I want to become like Shilala.
Or like me when I want to be like Sure. So what actually inspired this amazing book, I should say? What inspired you to write about this? I'm not sure if, and the time that you spent to write this book, I need almost 10 years to actually write something like this.
Yeah. What inspired me are the people in the book. My grandmother, my mother, my aunts, and the South Africans, ordinary people about whom I write, who will never become famous. Dudu Mukua will never become famous. My grandmother will never become famous. When I told my publisher that I wanted to put pictures of my grandmother and my aunts and other people on the cover, they said, but we want to sell your book. It won't sell if it has strange old women and on its cover. It will only sell if it has your picture. So we compromised. As you can see, there's my picture. But if you look carefully and you put the book against the sun, you will see pictures of the people that I had wanted to be in the front. And those are the people who inspired me. But I'm inspired by Siya Kolisi. I'm inspired by Chilizi Marwala. I'm inspired by Daniel Shirinza, about whom I write in the book. And I'm inspired by Leonard Cohen. You know, so there are many, many people who inspired me. And I thought, let me write about them.
Now, this is interesting. One journalist quoted this book and said, this is a feminist book. Would you agree?
I think it's an honor for me to be thought of as having written a feminist book. Because feminism is something that we as men must not appropriate too easily, because we are part of the problem most of the time. But it's an honor when people think I've written enough about gender and women in such a way that they feel that I am feminist in my approach. It really is an honor. Yes, the book is about my grandmother, my mother, Professor Pamela Dube, Professor Nokuthula Sibiya in Umlazi, Professor, the professor who founded the Mpumalanga University, Professor Linkabula, Tsakani Maluleke, Michelle Obama, Elizabeth Tsvangirai. So there is quite a number of women in the book, Antoinette Ntuli, and many others.
I listened to you telling us more about the content of the book. I'm very interested in the 2035 story that you told. Do you mind going deep into it a little? In 2035 at that massive funeral?
Actually, that piece was originally published in a newspaper. I just expanded it a little bit more. And when I published it, I thought I might be assassinated, but I wasn't, which means the country is not bad after all. We are a generation of South Africans who have seen it all in many ways. 1994, we were euphoric. Nobody who is dead or who was dead at that time would want to miss the 1994 moment. It was a beautiful moment. I mean, Winnie going to fetch him out of prison. You know, those few steps out of the Victor Verster prison, when Mandela and her took 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. I think that was the moment when apartheid fell. It was at that moment when they raised their hands, apartheid fell. But 30 years later, we are seeing a totally different country, a country that is not so sure-footed anymore. It could go left, it could go right. And that is the reason I imagined that funeral, where I wish I will not go and say Amandla.
I stand before you. That's what happened. But then if one was very lucky to walk into your very private space, how many books would I find there? Would those books in any way have an influence in this?
Oh yeah, no, but there's no doubt about that. I'm a bookworm. I guess that's how I became a professor. So when I read S.K. Mphahlele, and not just his Down 2nd Avenue, his many other books, I am in awe. I keep saying one day I would like to write like him, because I'm very far from there. When I read Saul Plaatje, Native Life in South Africa, read the first paragraph of that book. It will knock you out. In that first paragraph, you know exactly what the book is all about. On this Friday, on this day, in 1913, the native woke up, not exactly as a slave, but as a pariah in his own country. And he's talking about the Land Act. Who starts a book like that? Because in that first paragraph, you have the whole story, basically, of the trauma of the 1913 Land Act. You read the young man who wrote A Man Who's Not a Man, which is a book about a person who goes to circumcision. It's a novel and comes back without you know what. Yeah. Doesn't come back with it. It's left there. And that book starts with, the first sentence of that book is, "This is how I came to have an abnormal penis." Such books, you can't read such books and sit down. I often have to stand up after reading such a paragraph and say, wow, how do you do this? So I am inspired by many, many books. It would be, we would spend the whole day if I were just to talk about them.
True. When I read this book myself, there was a point when I called my wife and said, come here, come read this. I don't know how many wows have I made. Who writes a book like this?
I think it is someone who was born in Meadowlands, in those crazy streets where there was a gang called the Wire Gang. I referred to it in the program. You know what the Wire Gang did? Because all the toilets were outside, they would hide behind the toilet. And you'd go, the man or the woman would go into the toilet. And when you are vulnerable, because your trousers are on the floor or something, and then they would pounce. And then you would give them whatever it is that they want. I grew up there. I grew up in that street where Papa Rich would come back from work very drunk, and he would stumble and fall all the way from Maseru, holding to the fence until he reaches his home. In that township where you would be sitting at the street corner selling apples, that was one of the things I did, and a Zulu man would come with these big necklaces that they put, I don't know how they stretch their ears, and he would come singing like, a song from Zululand. And you would marvel at that. And then a group of Shibelani wearing women would also come singing Amahwelele or something to that effect. It's written by someone who grew up there. But it's also written by someone who grew up in a mission station, on the margins of a mission station, not at the center of the mission station. Who knows what it feels like to be a pariah in a way. I grew up going to school where I was being laughed at for my small eyes, which become even smaller in the sun, and the fact that when I laugh, I cry, and when I cry, I laugh. I was made fun of. So it is these experiences, and my experiences at 216 Bridge Street, which was my first job, actually. My very first job was at Bridge Street. And so when Bridge Street was renamed into Lillian Ngoyi, I was torn, because I love Lillian Ngoyi and what she did, and I write about her. But I also love Bridge Street and the memories I have of it, where my father used to work. And here's the other thing that Bridge Street did to me. You know, at home, my father was a very proud man with his friends. He even named his house. It had a special name, Chuchanjobo, he called it. And then he takes me to work with him at 216 Bridge Street. And there I see my father becoming a boy. They would call him his bosses, Obet. I didn't even know his name at that time. I just knew he was my father. And he would come running like a boy, and he would take instructions. And I thought, but why did this man bring me here? This is not the father I know. But of course, once we go to the Patco bus to go home, he would put on his jacket and his tops, and he would look like that father that I know, but not at 216 Bridge Street. So it's those experiences. I mean, what 216 Bridge Street taught me was, whatever happens to me, I don't want to end up doing a job like my father's. And maybe that was the point of him taking me there.
Before we close, special place, Valdesia. What will you say about it?
Yeah, Valdesia is a beautiful place. You know, it is a little place between the Livubu and Mambedi River. It is one of the most inspirational places I've ever been, because as a youngster, I didn't imagine an educated person. I saw educated people. The Maribatis lived there. The doctors, Maribatis, the children of Disi Maribati himself lived there. You can't not be inspired if you live there. And then there were those who were on radio, like you, but from Valdesia. Frank Hushwani, Makam. Remember, Tirin Tapto Makam is a resident from Valdesia. And so these people whom I know, I could hear their voices on radio. And one of the most amazing pieces of technology I saw at that time was the typewriter. Because if you went to the mission station, you would find the mistyping, and I just saw this thing dancing. And I thought, I want to learn to do that. You know, so it's a very inspirational place, but it's also a place of pain, as I explain in the book. Because Valdesia speaks in its own voice in my book. There's a chapter which is titled Valdesia Writes Back. And she speaks. And when she speaks, you have to listen.
I'm happy that my boss is here, Rose Chabalala. So she still looks at me as this amazing radio presenter, even though I'm reporting to her. But the culture of reading, there's no smell, nothing that's interesting like the smell of a book, Prof. But people are lazy to read now. Your parting shot regarding that. Are we going to have this as an audiobook, or we have already? Or how do we instill that culture of reading a book to the young people that are here and those who want to read or study any further?
Well, there's no other way but to sit down and read a book. I know that many young people don't want to do that. I don't think there is any piece of technology in the world that can impart as much knowledge or inspiration as a book. Even if it's an audio book or a digital book, it's fine. But we have to read it and wrestle with it. Some people read, they skim read. I would like to invite especially younger people to engage with a book. When I read a book and I make notes, it becomes old in 1 week because I write everywhere on the book. I take note and so on. So I still think we must go back to the book, go back to the story, because that's how we learn.
This gentleman, Prof. Tinyiko Maluleke.
Thank you very much.
On that note, this was the speaker of the university is Papama. That's her name. Papama, where are you? I need to take some few questions. Yeah, you are there. Yes, that's Papama there. If you have a question, ladies and gentlemen, please raise your hand. She will actually come to you and give you the mic. What do you have, Papama? Over to you.
So thank you so much. I see the hands already. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. My name is James Kwambala. I come from a group called the African Broadcasting. Prof, acoustic guitar, singing this song. Singing with academic work and writing this kind of book. How do you balance this? I know we all given 24 hours by God, but just balancing the 24 hours doing all that. If you can just make us know that.
Great. Let's take another question. I didn't know that you have other career options, Mr. Shkoban.
Well, we'll take one more question and allow Prof to respond and take another round.
Good idea if you will be open to come and join in the review session after we report.
Thank you. Prof, without disrespecting you, maybe you can just stand up when we respond for the sake of the stream.
Or should I stay there?
Oh, we can stay there, yeah, true that, yes.
Okay.
Then we'll take the last set of questions. Papa, come where it is to say Papa. Oh yes, okay, Prof.
Prof, how will you make this book a series? Some of us would like to appear there. Thank you.
Mr. Kateke was a DJ at his wedding, by the way.
Thank you.
Of years back.
Thank you, DJ Brian. My name is Ngetenge Case Morin. Prof, in last month of transparency, opacity, and translucence, you have taught us many things. One, you have taught us that not all famous people are great, and that not all great people are famous. Number two, you have also taught us that no matter how far the distance is, we'll return back home with water. It's just a matter of time. Number three, Prof, you have also transformed learners into leaders. You have also transformed the parents into partners. Let me also, in a very short sentence, speak in abracadabra, as you have also said. Prof, one question. When and how do you get time? When and how do you get time? And as I conclude, because I don't think I will ever have time to talk again. Prof, isingatana ikhangatana na n'wina ikhetepulana itsutsuma na n'wina aka xinkarhana lexi ntsongo hi nga na xona. May your presence be punctuated with a vacancy whose magnificence can only be there. I also hope that the audience here don't mind my linguistic approach because of its refugious polycentrism.
I saw that coming, by the way, and I knew it was coming. Oh, what an abracadabra. Thank you, sir.
Protocol officer, I have this to say. My prof today,
Just speak to the mic, I'm not hearing
Yeah,
you.
with the mic on, yes.
I'm his former
Yes, sir.
teacher.
Oh!
Ladies and gentlemen, I shall not only be lacking in modesty, but also give through this very book. Let us again, through this book, or this very book, the overriding message is the fact that loss of life intensifies genuine love. Thank you.
Wow. So that's like Mr. Miyagi and Daniel's son. If you know the Karate Kid movie. Prof, it's your time.
Yes, thank you very much. I can talk while seated, right?
Yes.
I think Dr. Maranellis was a comment and an encouragement, as befitting a teacher of mine. He was my teacher at Bankuna High School, where Tito Mboweni went, where Ruel Koza went, and I think I take after the fame of those people, and there are many others. Dr. Maranelli was one of the most inspiring teachers for me. He's also the author of many more books than I will ever write in my lifetime. So it's good to get encouragement from him. There were two questions which were similar about time. Where do I get time to balance everything I have to do? I don't know the answer to that question really, because we all have the same 24 hours. I asked Dr. Mkuna the same question: where does he get time to be thinking about all these malls that he is building across the country, and to work and make sure that they are implemented? I think when you are passionate about something, you make time for it. And once you have found out, you know, the famous saying of Mark Twain, the day you are born is very important because you could have died. But the second most important day is the day you find out why you were born. I think if you have a fairly good idea as to why you were born, you will make time to do those things for which you were born. I know people who say they don't have time, but even the time they have, they do very little with it. So I think it's just a question of dedicating time to those things that matter to one. Mulalo is of course being naughty because she knows that I will go to her book club. She's just teasing me in public. So, especially nowadays that I don't have to be physically there, we can have an online discussion. Mulalo, I'll be happy to be invited. A series where Frank Nkatingi can feature in a chapter. So behind that question is the question, why did I choose the people I chose? That is the real question. So why did I not write about Frank Nkatingi, and why did I not write about Hlengani Matebula. I'm just mentioning people that I'm looking at, or Alex Mabunda. It's simply that I couldn't write about everybody who inspires me. So I had to choose a few, because I think their stories resonate with many of us. So I also chose people whose stories resonate with mine. I mean, if Vusi Mahlasela says he wouldn't be Vusi Mahlasela without his grandmother, and I also think about my grandmother. If Sia Kolisi says I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for my grandmother in that house at Zwide Township who brought me up. When I listened to his story, of course I interviewed the people, that's the other thing. I wrote about the people I interviewed. Although, you know, some of them read what I've written and they said, but this is not what I said, but I like it. So I could only interview a few people and not many. Musa Mushabela, for example, when I was interviewing him, he was traveling in Egypt. And he told me all stories about himself, fighting against HIV/AIDS, because that's when he just became a doctor. Throughout Sekukuni land, he was a young doctor and so on. And eventually, he spoke about his grandmother, who was a quadriplegic. So I said to him, you know what, this is what I'm going to write about. I'll just use your name because you are known, but it's your grandmother that I'm interested in. So, yeah, it is people that I interviewed. Maybe I'll interview you and find the story for you. I think the rest were comments. Gentenge is also just commending me and making, well, he asked about time, which I've responded to.
Did you understand those jargons that he used there?
I was looking for my dictionary. And I don't have Google here. But I will consult with him later.
Thank you. Oh my God.
Good day, everyone. From mine, it just be a comment to say when you spoke about the Wire Gang, one of them is...
The Wire Gang?
Yes. So one of them is Amos Ngona from Zanen. And when you make reference to the women, one of them is from the Zoho Street, Bakari Seiva. And also the mountain that you speak about, the Yellow Mountain, behind Zone 7. It's actually where I used to play soccer, the soccer field there. So, but from your story, I started reading the book sometime last week, and I've been inspired, to learn more about our people, our stories, and where we come from. But now, one question that I have on chapter 4, page 23, when you speak about the young men, Ango men, and my question is, do you think Ngoma was used as a way to push back from our culture being taken away from us, because they went to the mountain having Christian names, and when they came back now Torangoma, so would you say Ngoma was basically to charge against apartheid and our identity as an African people?
I was about to ask how old are you, but it's fine.
Let me take a question from a student. Please introduce yourself and just straight to the question.
Hello everyone. Hello everyone, my name is Nicole. I'm a student under the faculty of ICT. I have quite a number of questions, but I think I will only ask two. Okay, my first question goes rivers often represent transformation, growth, renewal. They also symbolize the journey of life with its twists and turns. Rivers' ability to flow through obstacles and adapt to changing circumstances. What is one reason that made you to write or to connect all the rivers in one place? And what made you think that they mean one thing, and then in all the symbol and all the journeys that you are with, they are there in one position that you have to put them in your book?
Symbols. She's asking. She's talking about rivers and mountains. Okay.
Make them speak the same language.
Okay.
So to speak.
Because of time, I'm going to come back to the students. We're going to give you an opportunity. Please introduce yourself and ask Prof.
Thank you very much, Prof. We're very proud of you. My name is Dick Ruma, born and bred in Guyana. Yes, I'm in the south. I have one question, Prof, because I see that you've got knowledge from the village, you've got knowledge from the international world, but let's focus in our country's politics. And I don't want to put it in a spot. There's Prof there for you as well. What is your prediction about what's happening here moving forward?
What's happening here through?
Yeah, how? Unless it's Prof.
No, what is the question? What did he say?
He's saying, what is happening here, where, how? What do you mean by that?
What's happening with the country?
With the country.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yes. What I mean politically is that I think Prof. Temple also touched on it. What is the prediction of what is happening right now and the intervention that is happening moving forward for the future?
Thank you, and congratulations. Congratulations, Prof. I think it takes a huge amount of courage, firstly, to write your story. But the intimate and the individual story becomes, the communal story, it becomes very much a part of our national narrative about who we are as South Africans. And so what you've done is present this gift to us. I don't believe in coincidence. I just happen to be visiting because I grew up here. But I represent one of the oldest literary festivals in the country, which is Time of the Writer at UKZN. And we're finding, and we hope to see you there, we hope to be able to host you there. We're finding that, especially post-pandemic, Memoir has emerged as one of the most powerful ways of presenting ourselves and who we are. And I thank you, sir. I thank you for your contribution to understanding who we are, to filling this narrative, to rebuilding the puzzle of who we are. And my quick question is, and I promise it will be quick, is what is your advice to us who are writers, to us who are rebuilding and reimagining the future through literature, through our own story, through owning the power of our own story without apology? Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll start with the last one. A memoir is
a brave thing to do. So is the biography, I would think, although the two are different. In the book I tell the story that my grandmother told of a village madman who used to walk around the village singing meaningless songs and saying incoherent things that meant nothing. And then one day he finds people swimming in a lake, and this madman decides to take their clothes and run away with their clothes. And so that they are left with a dilemma. Dr. Chawan also knows this story. The dilemma is whether they run after the madman being naked, or they stay in the river without clothes. You can imagine this picture of one fully clothed man running with, in front, and naked people running behind him. Everyone in the village will say, they are the mad ones, and he is okay. So I tell that story in the book. I think someone who writes a biography or a memoir is one with enough courage to run after the madman naked and not be shy of chasing him and stopping him, as it were. So you expose yourself in the process of pursuing the truth. And that's the courage that we must all have. Because a truth is more powerful if it is also personal and not just about others or about the country, the people. You know, nowadays our leaders say our people. And I've heard even some men say, and they say our people as if they know everything about our people. I've even heard some men say our women. Our women. Are they your women, really? And that is a way of sort of bracketing them and representing them. So we have to continue to be brave enough to insert our little stories into the sea of the human story that is unfolding. And that's what's beautiful about Mpahlele's biography, by the way. I think it is one of the best biographies on the continent, down 2nd Avenue, because his little story is inserted into the vibrant life of Marabastad. And the characters, if you read that book, you even think you know the characters. There's a chap called Dinkudikai. Dinkudikai was a hustler and a guy who sold things in the street. And his biggest fear was the police, until one day he stabbed the policeman and he was cured of his fear of the police. I'm not saying that's how you conquer fear, but we just have to have the courage to tell the story, but not tell it in a navel-gazing manner. Tell it as part and parcel of the larger story, which you can't tell in totality. Not even my story can be told in totality, not even by myself. So we just have to have the courage to start the process and not be daunted. And let's not think too much about the rules. So people say, is it a memoir? Is it a biography? Is it about you? Is it about other people? It's about all of the above. And we should have enough courage to attempt something that may not neatly fall into all the established categories that exist now. Ngoma and as a pushback. So one of the fallacies of history is that history becomes smooth and neat. So you get a book about Swiss mission in South Africa. They arrived under a cloud, so and so, not under a cloud in the bad sense, but there was a cloud of holiness hovering over them, and they settled, they converted, and they built schools, and they built hospitals, and they did a wonderful job. What they don't tell you is the harm that was also done in the process. The men who had to send away the 4 wives and be left with one in order to be accepted in the church, for example, and the children who became fatherless in the process, and all the other ills that come with it. So it wasn't as smooth as we are being told. It was a battle. It was a battle of wits. It was a spiritual battle. It was a material battle. Now, Dr. Chawan may not like what I say because he knows how I was kicked out of the church for being problematic. You know, Dr. Nkuna, Dr. Chawan tells me this story that when they were at Limana together, and he would ask Dr. Nkuna, what do you want to be when you grow up? Dr. Nkuna would say, I want to be a millionaire. And then Dr. Chawane would say, I want to be a priest. Because Dr. Chawane comes from a tradition where people were taught commerce is evil. Economic activity is not for you. Wait until you are in heaven, where you will have everything for free. And so if Dr. Nkuna came from Valdesia, he wouldn't be who he is today. He would probably be suffering. You know, Fela Kuti, the Nigerian musician, suffering and smiling. He would be suffering and smiling. Because it was inculcated that you don't do business. Not even a shop, you can't open a shop. But so people had to push back to all these teachings. In fact, the first black shop in Valdesia, owned by a local, was in the 1990s. More than 120 years later. That's how strict it was. And that's how we ended up who we are, instead of what we might have been, or we could have been. I tell the story of Samson Mtombeni in the book, the guitarist. How he comes from a part of the country, or that territory, Bungeni, where Alex Mabunda is royalty there. And how, because he came from there, he became a cultural activist. Because culture, without culture, you can't push back. Yeah. That's why Joseph Goebbels, the minister of propaganda in Hitler's cabinet, the one thing he said you have to destroy is culture. Because when people are cultureless, they are not going to stand up against you. So it wasn't neat, it was a battle. People were pushing back in more ways than one. They were going to circumcision school when they were not allowed to. They were coming back into the mission station drunk, singing hymns and reciting psalms while they were walking all over the road, very drunk, because they were protesting against the prohibitions that were there. They took the soft Bible pages and used them in the pit latrines in protest of what they were going through. And it's not either or. It's not that the missionaries were all bad and culture was all good. No. But when we write and think about it, we have to capture the battleground that was there. So in the mission station, people will be taught to sing like Valdesia. I'm just like a worm. I'm a person of nothing. And once you start to believe that you are a worm, you will be a worm economically, you will be a worm socially, you will be a worm in every way. Whereas if you went to Kabungen and other places, people will be singing other songs of pride in who they are. And that's why even the ones who were in the mission stations would at night escape to go and partake in the culturally vibrant places. So there was a lot of pushback, and Ngoma is just one example. What is happening in the country now? I think we must be careful not to be too definitive about what is happening in the country now. It was Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, who said that sometimes you cannot connect the dots. You can't connect the dots going forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. Where we are now may be defined better 5 years from now, 3 years from now, 2 years from now. So we can't be too categorical. We know that things are tough. The economy has been dead for a long time, hasn't grown. Unemployment is at its highest, especially among young people. And all the mantras we have believed are being thrown out of the window. So the markets know better than the universities and the schools. We must listen to the markets. But the markets are confused themselves. They don't know what jobs will emerge 10 years from now. You know, if you think about it, 15 years from now, you had no such job as a social media manager, because social media did not exist. So what more? We might have a traffic cop for drones in 10 years from now, who will be controlling the drones. So we are at that moment as a country and as a world where we can't be too definitive. All we know is that this economy ought to be better than this. Unemployment ought to be better than it is. Young people ought to be getting jobs, but young people need to be more creative also about how they go about getting jobs. Because there are many young people who get a degree or a diploma and they think someone owes them a job because they have a degree or a diploma. And that mentality will take time to go away. But it needs to go away. Because you can't be a young person with a diploma in teaching coming from a village where there's not even a creche, a single creche. You have skills to start a creche, but you won't because you think the government must give you a job. And that's not to excuse the government, by the way. I'm very critical of government in this book, in many chapters. Yes. I think I've answered
Yes, you have.
all of them. Yeah.
I think we are fine. Yes, gentleman from
Thank you very much.
Thank you. On that note, we still have from Dr. Mike. If I would sing, I would say, Walibona, the city of Walibona, the city of
Thank you very much. Thanks very much, Brian, DJ Brian. Because I'm here for what? Sungula vulavula ni twi loko un'wana a vutisa prof nkarhi va wu kuma kwihi. Mina ni ta yi hlamula hi ndlela leyi. I'm sorry that all of us channel Margarita na go interpret anyani slowly. But see, South Africa in a 12th official language. And we have not 12th official language. If I are proud, it's the language style. And another thing I saw, other tribe one and one, whether Changani, whether Venda, whether Pedi, or whether Musu, or Fali Otinyo beside this one I saw. So I'm here. Hekuba ni invite Willie, a prof. And unfortunately, Premier Angakona, local Premier Angakona, I was going to acknowledge her and acknowledge, Prof. Acknowledge, Professor Tifo, acknowledge Mthengani, and acknowledge, you wouldn't matter. This our teacher Ramina, he was playing a guitar. And he break. I'll go to the toilets because boys being boys will go to the toilets and I'll sell the loose cigarettes. And then you will come to me and say, you must stop this. I'm going to report you to our principal at that time. And he was a very strict person. And I said, you can't stop me selling cigarettes because I want to be a millionaire one day. No, I said, No, I said I want to be a millionaire at that time. And then he said, me, I want to be a singer and I want to be a priest. And you managed to get, your priest. So myself, I managed to move on with my business empire. So today, we are here because we have been invited by Prof, who has written a book. And when I read, some of, the few chapters, I realized that, he's, coming from the same background like myself. He comes from Vadesia, I come from Shikelan. And when he approached me and said, how can you assist me because I want to launch this book? And I felt that, I must be able to assist him to launch this book. Because, see, his background is my background. And his biography, because, you see, he's got, his own biography and, the people that he has met, throughout his history. Right? And I realized that, all those two things are more or less the same. And I felt that, supporting him, I'll be supporting the right cause. And that is why I'm here, professors, to support you. So myself, I'm not going to talk a lot of things because, you see, the premier, talked a lot of things which I was going to say. And I felt that, I cannot go and repeat because she has done it. For me, I'm going to add things that, he has to do. Myself, I'm a proud Shanani, but at the same time, my heart bleeds because we had Giyani, which, it's now falling apart. But I tried by all means to resuscitate it through development of, malls and other things. But we still need more. And when the premier was here, she said, we are here and we want to hear from him. When are we finalizing TUT in Giyani? I'm saying to Professor, be firm, be a leader on that one. It will be an added, a value on your legacy. Before you disappear on this earth, TUT must be finalized tomorrow. We are here to assist so that, we can rebuild, TUT Giyani. So that, the children from those villages, they can see the university within their doorsteps. We used to have the university there. We used to have, the teachers training college there. We used to have the nursing college there. We used to have the vocational. And all those things are no more. And sitting here today and standing before you, I believe that, through your leadership, we'll be able to achieve that. So I'm here to congratulate you. I'm not going to talk, more than 5 minutes. Business people, they are not politicians, they are not academia. We know how to make money. Thank you very much.
Nice Ingomsnene, I believe Dr. Nkuna Maluleke. And this is the last but not least item. Mr. Alex Mavunda, Mr. Taces Consulting Group. Oh, okay, I'm very okay, okay, don't pull it.
Sebab Brian Lomono ne fala na mkhalabyo na ukuthi eish imono famba ngoku malembe mazaba umsala na fakona
Mboka yini na yini
bebona swanyana. Good afternoon everyone. I'm standing here on established protocol. I have been introduced as someone who looks like was Brian's father. So we'll go with that for today. Prof, your name has become synonymous to many things. So I'm going to just speak a little bit about the different Prof Maluleke, or the different versions of you, Prof, that we have come to know. When I first heard this name, Prof Tinyiko Maluleke, you were doing commentary on Talk Radio 702, our FM. And that commentary was always political commentary, balanced, at times safe, but always very thought-provoking. And that was my introduction to you. And of course I had the proximity of, or rather the privilege of enjoying your proximity when we served together at the Rishaka Heritage Forum. And there I met a strategist, a tactician, and a voice of reason who was not easily provoked or angered by the heres and nows. I also experienced a patriot in your Prof, and continue to feel very privileged for that time that we spent together at the Rishaka Forum. Soon after I met Prof Maluleke, the orator. This is perhaps the version of you that many people, especially back home in our community, knows when Prof Tinyiko Maluleke comes up. I was at the Oliver Awards last night, and I was gossiping with a colleague about my coming down here today. And he said, oh, Prof, it doesn't matter how many times you listen to him. Every time he speaks, his speech is a correct aside. And of course I agree with you. That is the you, Prof, that we have come to know. And of course the common thread in your speeches, Prof, is that all of them are well researched, very rich in content, linguistically enchanting, very abstract, but without losing the empirical signature. So much so that even the simplest of minds can keep up with your abstract speeches. And that's the vastness of your oratory. And I think for this, I want to invite everyone to clap for him. The way they share Shintongo, Then I met Prof, the academic bureaucrat. I've had the privilege of knowing a few people who serve in your council, and news quickly traveled to me that you are a taskmaster, you are not a pushover, and you're the type of taskmaster that resembles, the old school principal. And I thought to myself, by the way, you're actually a principal. I don't people forget. The principal. But also that you also have, your modern bureaucratic flair in terms of strategic management. So it's a great balance, and I could not agree more when I heard that, because that is the nature of the leader that I expect of you. Today we're experiencing you, Prof, as the writer, and I think the size of this room, how packed it is testament to the success of this project. I'm already thrilled by the reviews that I'm getting, and I hope to add mine very soon. But just listening to today and your summary of the book, I see this book, reenacting and basically bringing to the fore our literary culture as a country, in the likes of the works of Ned Nakasa and indeed Eskia, who you have cited quite extensively. The premiere reminded us of the vision of you as a public bureaucrat in your respective roles as the Deputy Chairperson of the National Planning Commission, and of course one of the eminent persons, if not the leader voice, in the upcoming national dialogue. So, but there's a part of you, Prof, that I think in a way it came out when you were talking here, but I would like to just say something about it. It's common cause that you indeed was born in Valdesia, brought up in Soweto, and you did touch a little bit the relationship that's there between Valdesia and Bungeni, and that is captured in the 1937, if I'm not mistaken, novel, Ya Sasabona, by the legendary DC Maluleke. Sasabona, doing one hour in school. But then at Sumera, I could go away because back in 1937. And I'm aware that your grandmother is from Bungeni. So in a way, Prof, you are a citizen of Bungeni, the bedrock of Tonga culture and tradition. And I don't doubt that much of what has become, or much of what you have become in life is anchored in those primitive sensibilities of Bungeni. And I'm using primitive here, obviously in a positive light. These are the same sensibilities that I myself has grown to be the founder and CEO of the ISA Consulting Group, which we proudly contributed to this very, very important event, Prof. And thank you for inviting us to do that. But as I conclude, I just want to say a small anecdote of the privilege that I've had of traveling with you to Mozambique. We're going to give a lecture on Samora Machel. We're invited by Memcrash, and we traveled with your tall brother and Dr. Robert. And I remember we were in this taxi, and you were regaling me with the stories of Samora Machel, how it crossed over to South Africa and to the lift with the ANC guys to exile. But one thing that I say, as a Prof, you must write the script of a Samora Machel movie for Netflix. So I think your next project has to be that particular one, because that thing is still sitting in my mind. So today is a culmination, it's a watershed moment, a celebration of a villager who rose to greatness and has now come back to retell his journey, a journey we can all draw inspiration. So, thank you, Prof, for continuing to be a patron. Very shy and black. And Prof, go.
You can agree, man. Look at this. You see? When I received this book on the 16th of July, I saw this as a very massive gift. And it made me to go and read words by Garrison Kaler, who said a book is a gift you can open again and again. It will never say no. Normally when I MC at weddings, I always tell the wedding planner not to put the next item on the program because the bride and the groom would have done that already, vote of thanks. If you go to any wedding, what the bride and the groom does is actually vote of thanks. But in this case, Professor did not do that. But then we're going to ask Dr. Shadrach Ntangeni, Acting Deputy Vice Chancellor for Operations. By the way, I know of Building 21, Prof. Yeah, I know of Building 21. I studied there. I know of Professor or Dr. Diedrichs. I know of Mefrofori. I know of Melia Groenewald. And I know of Tata Mukwateli, who I was a student at TUT. I actually saved this for us. So that building 21, they used to traumatize me. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause for Dr. Shadrach. Dr. Nangeni. Yeah, that
Thank you, good Brian. You did a sterling work as our program director. I must say that you all look beautiful and intelligent. Give yourself a warm round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues and friends, it is with profound gratitude and immense pride that I stand before you today to deliver this vote of thanks for the extraordinary celebration of Prof. Tinyiko Maluleke's book launch. This occasion, held on the first day of August 2025, marks a significant milestone in intellectual and cultural advancement, made possible through the collective dedication of many. I begin by extending a heartfelt appreciation to our distinguished speakers, whose eloquent and insightful remarks have illuminated the profound significance of Professor Maluleke's work. Let's give them a warm round of applause. Your contribution have indeed enriched this event, and we are deeply honored by your presence. To the Honorable Premier of Limpopo, Dr. Popi Ramatuba, who left early for another government event, your attendance and unwavering support for initiatives that champion education and culture are truly inspiring. Your visionary leadership continues to drive progress in our province. I also extend sincere gratitude to the MECs of Limpopo Province, government officials and heads of the department who have worked closely with Dr. Ramatuba and some of them who have attended this event, and for the steadfast commitment to fostering knowledge and development in our region. We are deeply honored by the presence of the chiefs and royals, Hoshima Fefe from the Wapedi Kingdom, who also just left now for another important engagement. Your guidance and blessing infuse this occasion with tradition, unity, and grace. Your support elevates this milestone, and we are immensely grateful. Indeed, Divare Mitiro, Yabulabula, the Kitselesune, Realeboha, Rodibuan Amanda. I knew I was saying that right, that I deserve a warm round of applause. Prof. Lisiratefo, thank you for traveling all the way from Gauteng and being part of this milestone journey by Prof. Maluleke. Your meticulousness this morning as a book discussant is indeed commendable. Let's give him a warm round of applause. Our profound thanks goes to our generous sponsors, Boniswa Group, under the visionary leadership of one of our own, former student of mine. We come a long way with Melinette Magasa, who initiated this event and emphasized that a launch must happen in Limpopo. And since you've met Prof. Maluleke, all you've been doing is just giving and giving to the university. I vividly recall some 2 years ago when our women AFCON champion came back from Cairo with the AFCON trophy. You were like Oprah Winfrey, giving them 20,000 each. A warm round of applause. We also thank Masingita Group led by Dr. Mike Nkuna, Ndiso Consulting, Mr. Alex Mabunda, and the Limpopo guest minor, Mr. Inos Rabura. You believe in the transformative power of knowledge, and your generous contribution have made this celebration possible. Your commitment sets a powerful example of corporate responsibility and dedication to intellectual progress. We also thank all our other stakeholders for kind donation and other intervention to make this day a rounding success. I must tell you that when I was calling Dr. Nkuna, he never ignored my call to say, hey, this one, now they're looking for contribution. He will be the one who will be even asking me, are you guys now okay? Because I want to do more. But I will say to Dr. Nkuna, we are fine. Thank you so much. A warm round of applause. Members who have done so well, the Executive Management Committee for your unwavering support, the Institutional Management Committee. I saw many of you are attending this event. A special recognition goes to the Office of the Advisor to the VC, the Campus Rector of Polokwane Campus, Dr. Chamano, Corporate Affairs and Marketing Team, Executive Director, Student Affairs and Extracurricular Development Office, and the Directorate of Extracurricular Development and TUT for their pivotal role in ensuring the success of this launch. Your dedication to academic and cultural excellence is truly commendable, and we are proud to collaborate with such distinguished colleagues. Let's give them a warm round of applause. A special tribute is owed to Ms. Papama Chiskawi, who have championed this initiative of this book launch, for her exceptional leadership in orchestrating this event. Papama, your vision, tireless dedication, and meticulous planning have brought us together to celebrate this milestone with elegance and impact. I know everything that the VC will be writing back to you, it will be about elegance, and we can see it, we can feel it this afternoon. Let's give her a warm round of applause. Prof. Maluleke, I can safely say tonight I'm going to sleep, because Papama has been troubling us, and for a good reason. for such a legend of Prof. Maluleke's caliber. We also applaud a remarkable team, including the TT Media team, TT FM, and Tshwane FM for their outstanding efforts in promoting this launch. Gratitude goes to Ms. Machelane Sintumule from Corporate Affairs and Marketing, whose seamless coordination has been instrumental in making this event a resounding success. Let's give her a warm round of applause. To our student leaders, to our students and staff members, thank you so much for ensuring that this event is a resounding success. We have attended events in other institutions where you will see student leaders and students arriving late for an event. And I must tell you that by 9:30 this morning, our student leaders and students have already seated in this hall. A warm round of applause. Our famous alumna, Ms. Senzi Madiba, affectionately known for praising President Ramaphosa at the 2024 State of the Nation address. Prof. Maluleke, we know that this was a surprise for you and it worked. Thank you for your rendition. Your rendition this morning as you praise one of the greatest South African, Prof. Maluleke. It was something special. And he had mixed emotion about what you just did. We can safely say that indeed TUT got talent. A warm round of applause. To our host, Mission Boutique Hotel, thank you for hosting the most important event happening in the country today, Professor Tinyiko Maluleke book launch. Let's give them a warm round of applause. To our program director, DJ Brian Ricoso, your vibrant energy and passion have steered this occasion with brilliance. Thank you for guiding us with such enthusiasm. We appreciate you so much. And Dr. Chamano, we must say that for the future event at your campus, both Brian is here. He has done his spelling work and he has never faltered. Now let me go to the man of the moment, to Professor Tinyiko Maluleke, our boss, the visionary behind this milestone. Heartfelt congratulations on the launch of your book. Your work is a testament to your brilliance, passion, and unwavering commitment to advancing knowledge. We are privileged to celebrate this achievement with you and eagerly anticipate the profound impact your book will have on scholars, readers, and communities worldwide, not just in South Africa. Today, we celebrate you. We give you your flowers while you can still smell them. You are indeed an epitome of academic excellence globally. A warm round of applause. Finally, to all our distinguished guests, friends, family, and attendees, thank you for gracing this occasion with your presence. The support for Professor Maluleke's work underscore the value of literature, scholarship, and community. Your participation has made this event truly memorable, and we are deeply grateful for your shared enthusiasm. In closing, you all know that we started the month of July with a notorious and famous press briefing. Today is the 1st of August, 2025. We start with a book launch of Professor Tinyiko Maluleke. August is going to be a great month. And I just pray that Prof. Maluleke will not call a media briefing, call The Day I Die, which is in chapter 9 of his novel, which will shock the nation and become another famous, another in pursuit of knowledge, progress, and unity. And as you all know that Prof. Maluleke, he is a generous father. He just whispered to me that to all his students, before you leave this hall, each one of you, you will have a copy of his book. You won't forgive me if I go and sit down without saying this. Lunch will be served for everyone hosting this room. Thank you so much, and may blessing about now.
With Professor, I can't talk. Oh, it's a photo shoot. So are the days of our lives. I'm walking to the convivial sound of women and children at the village fountain of Valdez. I've lived the terror of the brutal streets of Ndofaya, where the wire gang ruled. That is in page 23. I read this book just to quote 3 lines. Prof, I'm not happy. I read this whole book just to come and quote 3 lines, guys. But anyway, this is a good read. It's very interesting that I've got former bosses in the same hall. Former boss of mine, James Tukwambana. You asked a question earlier on. Former boss of mine, Mr. Maguvani there. And current boss of mine, Rose Chavala. Oh man, I'm blessed. And the future boss, Prof. Tinyiko Maluleke. And the future supervisor. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Dr. Shadrack, he actually said we'll have lunch will be served, but the VIP tables, which I believe they know, but they'll help you. But it has to be 2 tables at a go. So is everyone else will use that 7 point at the back there, or 7 points. I need that job, so I need to speak proper English. 7 points at the back there, Prof. Is 2 tables at a time. Baba VIP bawe. Aba kuchama mbozo chakua baga. Elo go bela jafla jaona. This is mega true. Lekoni laga mwara ndo kamuga. Leta gwamura kwa 7.3. Leta mega true. Chebu jebe ni bajafa jebe ni na kwaiti. Dan twankere. Memoire. My name is DJ Brian, ladies and gentlemen. DJ Brian Reporter. Over Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I am your presenter, Papama. Papama, thank you. Peace, love, and happiness. We shouldn't bombardier to ourselves. Go.